Welcome back to the Men Seeking Freedom podcast, episode number 25. I am Michael Lynch, the host. I'm excited to introduce today's guest to you. Shell Sawyer is a certified divorce financial analyst. She's a mediator. She's a coach, and she's the founder of Finding Strength with Shell. I love business names that talk to you a little bit about the transformation that you get. But Finding Strength with Shell helps men and women through the divorce process with clarity, confidence, and emotional steadiness. Shell, having been divorced, I didn't even know those things were even possible to experience. So, Shell,
I actually didn't know it while I was going through my divorce either. So there you go.
So there you go. We have the benefit of knowing through something we probably didn't plan on. We have the benefit of knowing. Tell us a little bit about, before we get into all these great areas where I know you can help the men in this audience, what was it that made you choose this direction?
Well, I went through my own divorce, as we were just saying, right? And I found it to be very overwhelming. I didn't want my divorce. I'll be clear about that. And I found myself to be very depressed during the time that it was happening. And here I was having to make decisions for my future, but not only my future, but my daughter's as well. And, some days I didn't even really want to get out of bed. Yet here I was having to go into these, we did mediation. So here we had to go into mediation and make all these decisions. And I kept thinking, I wish I had somebody that could help me through this process, because this is just really tough, very difficult, right? And mediation is a little easier. I don't like the word easy in the same sentence as divorce, because that's usually, you might know that, right?
Is that oxymoronic? Is that the
Yeah, I know,
the term
but
for
it's
that?
easier than the
Yeah.
lawyer route, like the litigation route. So, yeah.
It was a couple of things. The one thing we have one of probably many things we have in common is I was not the one seeking divorce in my situation either. I don't know if that makes it better or worse or whatever, but that is an issue.
Yeah.
But you're correct. There's as you're going through this on the job training of what the heck is this divorce all about. I think one of the things I was excited to have you on today is I've been amazed since my divorce. This is stepping back in general, looking at society. As you know, it's worth learning from a horrible experience. And I am stunned at the number of people I've observed who tend to replicate things that got them into the bad situation to start with. I think there should be a one divorce maximum rule in life.
Right? Yeah.
That seems awfully strong, but
they can't go through it again in the same exact way, right? Keep repeating yourself.
So what a good. So first of all, thank you for that answer. You found career in navigating and dealing with an experience and saying, I know there's a way I can help people. As someone who talks to people a lot about entrepreneurial thinking, it's interesting where that comes from. Had you seen yourself as being entrepreneurial prior to that?
I mean, I was in corporate America for over 20 years, right? In financial services industry. And I'm a finance girl by heart. I think there's a couple of times where I thought, yeah, I would really like to have my own business, but didn't really know what that was. And I feel like, and I'm trying to remember what I was listening to, but I had listened to it's probably before there was podcasts. But it was a podcast like thing, right? Before there was podcasts. I'm dating myself now. And somebody said, find the gap where you feel like there's something missing and that could be your business model. And when I was going through my divorce, I was like, there's something here, because this is not good. This is not where anybody really wants to be, and something has to be different.
And
Yeah.
as you know, starting a business, and depending on how you feel about competition and all those kinds of things, what
Yeah.
what helps, not that we're here to give business advice on this, but it helps to be able to say, hey, I can be an authority on experience, and
Mm.
having kind of a, as we're going to talk about today, a process, a better way to go through things.
Mhm.
We share that with all the aspiring entrepreneurs out there who are all doing things in their own life and
Yeah.
realize they can deliver value that way. So,
Right. Yeah.
well,
Something new, different, better. Look for it.
let's connected to your DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to the audience about how men experience divorce differently, both on an emotional and practical level. Share with us a little bit about what you've observed in that area.
Yeah, and it's more just my observation, right? And I think this goes, like you were talking about DNA, right? This goes back to our DNA. It's kind of like men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? We are really different, and how we deal with life tends to be a little differently, and definitely divorce, right? Women are definitely more emotional creatures, right? They're thinking about, is everybody gonna be okay? Are my kids going to be okay? Like, where should they live? Not that men don't think about that, because they do, right? But I feel like there's more of a thought process around, how is this going to affect my financials going forward, right? There's definitely a different mindset. Um, I and I feel like they don't ask for help as much.
Somebody should start a business called Men Seeking Freedom about that. That no,
So
that's
I lobbied that over to you.
yeah. There you
It's,
go. Thank you. Yeah, we've been rehearsing this since about 6 hours ago. Um, no, these are realities. I don't know what it was. I don't know if my parents like bounced on my head like a basketball when I was a kid or whatever. But one of the best things I've had going for me in a life full of challenges and all that is I can say what's on my mind. And yeah, it's common to run into guys. I want men to seek the freedom of, yeah, how do we, what does it take? It's a process, obviously, but what does it take to be able to put stuff out there? So in
yeah.
in your so in knowing that mediation was an option not
Mhm.
agreed upon in my divorce, um, what usually gets the person to entertain, or the couple to entertain working with you, knowing that they have other options?
The cost is a lot less to do mediation. I think that first, that, like, piques people's interest, right? Okay, like, what do you mean by costs are less, right? Like, I'll listen to that. It does take less time, so you're in the divorce process a lot less time. Who doesn't want to do that, right? I don't mean rush through it, because that's not the answer, right? People usually get themselves in trouble when they say, I just want this done, right? Because they're not making good decisions at that point. But
Quick,
it's less
quick
time.
question on that, Shell. Hold your
Yeah.
thought. Um,
Yeah.
in having gone through the lawyer process, this is it state by state, and by the way, does this impact mediation, where there was a quote, and this is 11 years ago plus, a cooling off period,
Mhm.
or does mediation, can mediation follow a different calendar or process?
It definitely follows a different calendar process, but it is state by state.
Okay.
So being in Connecticut, right? I can speak to like what Connecticut is, and like state are similar, but you do have those fair and equitable states, which that's what Connecticut is. And then you have community property states, and that's most of the states on the West Coast, right? So a little different, but every state has their own laws. Yes, Connecticut does have a 90-day waiting period that you don't have to wait for if you choose mediation in Connecticut.
Oh, that's a golden nugget right
Yeah,
there. That is
yeah.
so good to know. So, um,
And I would say Connecticut's a big proponent of mediation because they allow you to waive that, right? They also allow you, no one needs to be served when you do mediation in Connecticut. Collaborative law as well, like if you choose collaborative law, but mediation, you don't get, you can start anytime and there's no like, it's private. There's no public record yet on the books in Connecticut starting with mediation.
so when I envision a couple coming to you, let me know if I'm making a wrong assumption. But
Mm.
I'm thinking to myself, based on just a little bit you've shared so far, is it fair to say that the two parties may be a little bit more reasonable and less acrimonious in the ones that, in addition to factoring in the this will cost us less? What
Yeah,
is it? Because think about the stereotype, Shell, of oh, they're button heads. Oh, okay. Well, my joke is, too many people have 1-800 lawyers on their
yeah,
speed dial.
mm,
A lot of people, I think,
yeah,
prior to knowledge of mediation. So, or just share any characteristics beyond the simpler, less expensive process. What else do
yeah.
people who seek mediation, what are they like?
Um, I think they have some knowledge of it. That's why they're seeking it, right? I don't feel that it's necessary to go the litigation route, right? But I think, I'm going to just say from my experience, most people think that the first thing that they need to do is hire an attorney when they're getting divorced. And it's a myth, right? You should be getting educated about the divorce process before you step into it, right? And I think you know, lawyers are great. They have a role in this. They can be a really great advocate. But usually they want you to have a plan before you step into their office. Because they are not number crunchers. They are not financial experts, right? They want you, but they'll go to bat for you, right? So there's a lot of, and there's confrontation. I think the process itself, the litigation process kind of leads to confrontation, not necessarily that the couple has to be that way to start off. I mean, yes, I think that there's definitely a place for that litigation space. If there's any abuse of any kind, whether it's financial, emotional, physical, litigation is your route, right? But I think a lot of people can do mediation. Um, even it's not like you don't have to be nice, you don't have to be kind. You do have to like want the best for both of you, right? And your children. I would say that's the key.
How
Yeah.
about just wanting to know that even if this is a challenging thing to get through, to know that we're going to really create and shape something better on the other
Yes.
side. If this, so you had said,
Especially if
uh,
you have kids. Yeah.
and that's a perspective, Shell. I may have said to you earlier. I don't have when I was not. We did not have children, so my situation a little bit different than these additional the people you have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
You had said people typically think the first thing you do is get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay, well now that we're talking to an expert here, for a couple that's in a tenuous situation, looking at separating and divorcing, what is the first thing they should do?
The first thing they should do is listen to webinars, get educated, know about what the process is like in your state, right? There's so many different paths that you can take. What is the right step for you? And then know what your numbers are. Like, very important. Everybody's divorce is going to be different, and it's all based on their financial portfolio. What
So
they do versus what somebody else does is going to be so different.
going back to what you just said about, webinars or getting educated, do you play a role either through your website or any marketing that you do to walk people through the divorce 101 first steps? Or do you
Yes.
have resources you recommend people look at?
I try to do webinars as often as I possibly can to educate people, mostly people who are like contemplating divorce or find their on the doorstep of divorce. I do webinars. I also wrote a book. It's called You Are Not Alone, and it's your guide for when divorce is on your doorstep. Like a little segue there. That was
Good,
nice. But
good.
it's just my kind of perspective on all the things you should do before you kind of jump into divorce, right? But I think getting educated about the process, it's you don't just have to hire an attorney. And I feel like, and that's going to lead someplace else, but like, attorneys are threats, right? They're always a threat in the divorce process. Like, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to take you, for what you're worth or whatever.
Yeah.
There's all these language that gets used around there, right? But you sometimes get a better agreement when you're amicable and you do mediation, because the process itself is very amicable, and it sets you up for success, especially if you're going to have to co-parent with that person in the long run. Like, they don't go away, right?
Mm.
When you're co-parenting, sometimes it's even, it's a more difficult situation now because you're not married.
I'd shared in a video recently about this resilient man coaching that I offer for divorced or men going through some or overcoming some trauma. And I had said that it's having, when you go through divorce, my reaction initially was it's a very reactive environment in the sense that, so you're sharing here in these last few minutes a proactive approach to take when you haven't gone through that. And you can be defensive, you're
Yeah,
emotionally whatever you are, and then all of a
you're
sudden it's like, well,
grieving.
then your friends or people start doing the, well, hey, you've got to, all in the
Yeah,
spirit of trying to be helpful and supportive. But you realize now that you and I can look in the rear view mirror and think about
yes.
this, it's it doesn't have to be as reactive. It can be something in spite of all that you're going through. So
Yeah.
I
And I would say most of the time, right, when we're doing something, whether we're going on vacation, or planning a wedding, we plan, right? And the one thing that I think gets missed around divorce is the lack of planning people do. They're not doing that. They don't have a strategy for what lies ahead, right? So
come on,
can be
Shell.
dangerous.
Shell, divorce is much more icky than going to scheduling a trip with you to go to Tahiti. But I
Well,
know,
right. It's more fun to plan that, right?
right?
But
I'm, I'm
it
giving.
doesn't cost as much as your divorce possibly could. So yeah,
Depends on how long you
there's a
stay there, right?
lot at stake here that you're like giving up just to kind of jump into something, right?
I want to go back to you also, when you were talking about the prep work. Um, I think you phrased it as, and I know what you meant, but I want you to just be very specific.
Okay.
Have your numbers together. What
Mhm.
beyond the, well, we own a house, there's brokerage accounts, there's the
Mhm.
cars, there's the lease. Are, is it as typical as that? Or when you say have your numbers together, what are some things people should be thinking about in that area?
they should be organizing it, right? Like, so it's not just enough to know that you own these things. I mean, what is their worth? So, financial advisors and people who are really into finance, right? We put things together like, what is our net worth, right? How much do we own and owe? What does that look like? That's what you're doing in divorce, right? Is looking at your marital property, anything that you've acquired during the course of your marriage or has increased in value. So knowing what it all is worth. And so I mean everything, like adding it all together and knowing where your statements are and being able to look at your tax return and see if there's anything missing. Because it's a treasure trove of information, right? But run your credit report, see if there's anything on there that's like, you weren't aware of. Like just being informed and having that information available to you, and organized.
So when I mentioned at the beginning your title, certified divorce financial analyst, did you find that well, you said you had a financial background, but
I have a financial background. Yeah.
But it sounds like you were also, is it fair to say that as you open yourself up to mediation, did you find that a lot of the people who would find you were in need of better understanding of their finances? Or do you see like kind of a mixed bag of financial sophistication, so to say, of the people you talk to?
Yeah, there's definitely a mixed bag. And this is just like my opinion and my observation of life lately is that way back when, I'm not going to date myself again, but we used to balance our budgets, our checkbooks regularly, right? Since things have gone digitally, people don't seem to have a handle on what they're spending anymore because they can spend it so easily. So there's not a lot of budgeting happening in the world at the moment. And when you get into the divorce world, now you're thinking about your next chapter, right? And what does that look like? Am I going to be okay on my own? Most people don't really know. They know how much money they make, but they don't know how much money they spend. And what does it cost to be them? Right. I feel like that's something that's missing. And I feel like it's because we went all digital, that people don't have a good handle on unless you use an app or,
I was just going to say, you know, you want to know how old I am? I'm so old that I chuckle when I watch what appears to be the rest of the world in front of me in a line somewhere hold their phone up to the point of say,
well,
the
yeah.
transaction you're doing. And every time I see that, which I don't do, every time I see that, I'm like, do these people have any clue what they're, and it's usually like in like a Starbucks or something like that, where I know how much my tea costs and all that stuff. But
Right.
but yes, you're bringing up an interesting point of, are we going through this generational change that brings your expertise into play even more of, I'm really showing people how to track their money in addition to deciding what's got to be divvied up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to really know what your next chapter is going to look like. So you know exactly what you need in your new chapter, not just what you want, right? It's not just about, I want the house because I want my kids to be secure. It's yes, that, and can I afford it? Because the last thing you want to happen is your inability to afford something and you to be strapped. Your kids are going to feel that, right? And yes, it might be difficult to think about moving, but understanding if you can keep that and make it sustainable is really important. And you're giving up something else bigger by keeping the house, right? That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to have to not have to go on vacations because you can't afford it, right? But you're usually giving up something that's like more valuable, like retirement.
Mm, mm.
And and the house isn't going to feed you when you retire.
It's a, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing going from taking all the emotions that go into things
Yeah.
and
It's very
trying to,
emotional.
yeah, well, and
Yeah.
it's, but I mean, but you're proving the value in what you do of, hey, so, you know, you need to be advised in a way where we're looking at the big, not only are we looking at this moment in time, this event that's happening, but in order to do this the best way possible, it seems we've got to be really as clear as we can be about. Do you find in the work you do, just staying on that in that vein, as people are going through that and they're mature enough to go to a mediator and take care of the benefits of that, talk a little bit about how clear are people on where they see their lives going?
Mhm. Yeah. They're not very clear. It's not they're not thinking about the future at that point. They're just thinking about this current state that they're in and how to get through it. Right. So it's very like I'd almost say like narrow-minded. I don't mean to make it like that's not negative, but it's like it's just concentrating on this present situation that they're in, right? Um, and my job as a mediator is to kind of make you think about the future as well. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Mm.
So okay, so we're talking about we've talked about the types of people who find you and know that it's a great option, and let's not even move over the step of, we'll talk later at the end about your book and about webinars that you do. But what tends to be, so as you're talking about, people need to become financially sophisticated, I'm using the word sophisticated, literate,
Yeah.
whatever. What are there things that we haven't talked about yet that turn out to be, beware of this because this can really slow down or stall the process?
People have to acknowledge that what they're going through is something traumatic, even if it's something that you want, right? And I'm kind of like saying this because you're grieving, right? And one of the probably like the funniest things I'm not funny, but I was like talking to someone and they are like, I'm finally at acceptance. I'm there. I can move forward with the divorce. And what grief is it's not linear. And once you usually start the process, like you feel good. Some days are great, other days you're back into the angry stage or you're back into even denial, right? You're moving back and forth as you move through, and you just have to be able to acknowledge that, and say like, I know some days are going to be tough, and I need to do my best, because that's when you make bad decisions, is when you're letting the anger direct you, right? You're letting, bitterness or, you know, at any of the stages of grief. Don't let that kind of direct you where you're going. Um,
Of all the things in your bio and your titles, and I don't know if I missed it or not, but are you a psychologist or a family and marriage haha therapist? I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you have to do by nature of the work is therapeutic. How
yeah,
do you
it is pretty therapeutic.
how do you treat that?
I think just being aware and acknowledging and like seeing what my clients are going through, right? I feel like so I wrote, not to mention my book again, but I called my book You Are Not Alone. And the reason why I did that is because I feel like everyone that kind of enters in the world of divorce, they feel so alone. They feel like they're the only ones that are going through it at that point in time because you don't know. at that point in time, you might not know anybody that's going through a divorce, right? But there's lots of people out there.
Your
Yeah,
divorce is your own divorce is the only one you need to know about. Yeah,
it is the only one you need to know about. But I think people need like support, right? Not getting advice,
Sh-
like you mentioned.
Sh-
But
Shell, just one thing I want to clarify. This is a heavy book promotion zone that you're living in.
sorry.
So if you would like to reference your book in every sentence or every other sentence, that's no, I'm serious because
Yeah.
it's great. People can watch this, they'll be sharing this and all that stuff. But we want to, as the person hosting this, I want to make certain the listener viewer is retaining as much. So even though we were going to do this at the end, your book, somebody right now is wanting to read your book. Where do they get it?
Amazon. You are not alone. Yep.
Shell Sawyer, You Are Not
Yep.
Alone, Amazon.
Hmm. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. No, we're laughing about this, but here's one of the key themes. We walk into a phase of life that, except for the ones who've been through it dozens of times, which is a whole nother story. But we're walking into a phase of
That's
life.
another podcast.
Yeah, right. That, but this is what I call one of those dark side of the moon experiences of you're not meant to be an authority on this. So, in the spirit of educating and creating resilient men and happy people, get the damn book. Educate yourself. Get the book. Get the book when there may still be something to salvage as just a resource, so that if God forbid you have to go through it. What are the what? So what? So the media. So let's talk more about the mediation process. What more, in addition to the things we've talked about already, what are some other things people can be made aware of about mediation that they may not be thinking about now?
So anybody that's in corporate America, I feel like mediation is like a business meeting. You're creating a business contract. That's what you're doing, right? And mediation is much like going to business meetings. You have an agenda. I always say the only way to the other side is through. I think Robert Frost said that, but I'm going to say that now. Um, and it has steps to it, right? So a lot of people, I feel, are nervous about, hey, if I start mediation, and it doesn't work out, is like everything lost. And it's not, because you've already made some decisions that can go to your attorneys if that happens. But I'd say most people, they finish the mediation process because they want to. Um, it is very valuable. You are making decisions together. So I feel like more people comply with these agreements. There's not an attorney telling you what to do. There's not a judge telling you, like, this is what you have to do. The two of you are making these decisions together. And I think that, like, not only does that benefit you and you're having crucial conversations with your, soon to be ex, but the biggest benefit is to your children. You don't bring them into mediation. There's no guardian ad litem. They don't even have to know that you're going through it. Um, you're going to be good co-parents by
Yeah.
doing mediation. Yeah. And let me tell you, okay, I've been divorced for a little while now, and you two have to talk still. You still are in each other's life. You have things that happen. Um, you still my daughter is 22 now, and I just talked to my ex yesterday. So like it doesn't go away. So the better you two can be, the better it is for everyone.
So in essence, mediation is almost rehearsal for life
Yeah,
after divorce, where I think this is a real positive part of this, where you're actually
I like
tr-
that.
you're rehearsing, you're training yourself Shell, how many more examples do we need to see of couples, people behaving badly at the expense of themselves and other people? So if
Right.
there's a place to rehearse, put re- put rehearsal leader in your bio
Oh my
for
God.
what when me so
I like that.
you touched on. I want to make sure I put this in perspective. I don't want to make it sound like the worst thing ever, but there is something in the judicial, especially the day you show up at the
Mm,
courthouse, if that feels natural to anyone other than the people making money off of this, uh, I don't know who it is, but that
yeah.
standing in front of a judge, okay, it was nice to say, I've been in a courthouse now. I know what a judge does in a situation like that. But man, when mediation ends, it's obviously it doesn't, if I understood you correctly, it doesn't involve a courthouse, does it?
No, most of the time people don't even see the inside of the courthouse, especially since COVID. There used to be, prior to COVID, there was an uncontested divorce day, and anybody who was doing mediation or pro se or anything like that went to the courthouse at that on that day. Nowadays, you can submit it online, and most people don't even see the judge, don't know who the judge was that did the, yeah. But everyone tends to like that about mediation. Another benefit. Yeah.
With mediation, we have two parties that you work with who reach an agreement. They are
Mhm.
divorced. Now, let me go into the Hollywood or other real life versioning on the lawyer side and go, I'm bringing you back to court if you're not honoring this agreement.
Mhm.
In mediation, I don't know, talk if you're willing to talk a little bit about, do you find that a high percentage of people are good about not having to amend, or how much is, how often do you see people post getting their mediated agreement, and how
Mhm.
and do you help in that area?
I do. Yeah. Anything to do with the children always remains open. So if there's adjustments that need to be made to like child support or their parenting plan, or one of the big things I would say is how they, are paying for the children's direct expenses,
Okay,
right?
good.
That could be activities, it could be like, school lunch, right? And having insight into that, but yeah, they can make changes to their original agreement, based on, new circumstances.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And that just, at that point, that's case by case, and you just work out some type of, well, if you're going to work with Shell, here's the agreement on how that plays out. Is that how you
yeah,
look at it?
yeah, yeah, it's an adjustment to the original agreement, right? Yeah, that gets submitted back to court. Yeah.
Is it, so again, outsider perspective, thinking about the type of people willing to work through your process, the types of people they are, is it um, uncommon for people post mediated divorce to have big acrimonious problems, or do they tend to be just more of the ones you'd anticipate from a life perspective?
Yeah, they tend to be the ones that you would anticipate, right? A big thing that I've seen is like if people weren't truthful in the original divorce, right? That tends to be something that comes out of this. Maybe didn't disclose like all their W-2 withholdings, having a side business, things like that. So it tends to be people who weren't as truthful,
Yeah.
right? You have to be really careful in divorce because you can come back and take anybody back to court if you didn't disclose everything. In Connecticut makes you disclose everything in your financial affidavit. So some states don't. Connecticut does. I think it's like If I was to say, because I witness a lot of couples going through it, it's a really good thing that Connecticut does this. Yeah.
What, with respect to your time in not wanting to deal with people who really aren't candidates, what are situations that mediation doesn't work for?
Any abuse, manipulation. That's a big thing, right? I'd kind of put that in the abuse category, right? If there's any manipulation going on, mediation is not for you,
When you
right?
when you say abuse,
Mm.
physical, emotion, I mean, you're looking at a broad
Emotional,
range
physical.
of,
Yeah. All the categories. If you are being or are a financial abuser, right? Don't come through the mediation process.
yeah.
You
And you
have to want the best for your significant other too.
can I can I presume, so okay, let's go, okay, we're going to go back to the beginning again. So watched the webinar, was a really good person and read the book. What is does the person then come in, or do you like to do some type of like screening process so that you can, I'm sure in these cases like these ones you just referenced where abuse and other things are going on, how do you, so to say, qualify the
Yeah.
right people?
I offer a 30-minute consultation, free consultation. I think it's not just for me to like screen you, but you to screen me as well, right? To see if you should definitely like the person that you're gonna do mediation with, right? Um, but it helps to the questions that I ask. I'm kind of looking for that a little bit to make sure that there's nothing going on. Sometimes it's not foolproof, you know.
When and
I've experienced that.
when you do an initial consultation, Shell, is it best with both, or does that work with one person inquiring out of the couple?
Yeah, I do separate consultations. I actually like that better because I feel like um the person's going to be a little different and ask some really important questions without their spouse there, right? Um and so I usually have a consultation with one first and then they let the spouse know that they talked to me and then I'll have a consultation with the other spouse. So I
I,
think it's better for me. I get to like screen them a little better too. So
I watch enough cop shows like Law and
me
Order
too.
to know that you got to separate the two people
Mhm.
that you're suspicious of having committed the murder. So no, but
Yeah.
that makes sense though. You want to get as uh, free flow of information,
Yeah.
accurate
Yeah.
information as possible.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna let's set this up for you then. Uh, you are not alone. You are never alone. Your book.
You are not alone.
You are not
Yes.
alone. Shell Sawyer, Amazon. Get it.
Yep.
For the
Get it.
person interested in a webinar that you do, best way to be informed about that.
My website, www.findingstrengthwithshell.com. Oh boy, do I wish I named myself something different there, but it's a long, long.
Hey,
Who knew?
it's and there's two L's, two L's in Shell.
Who else? Yes.
Finding
Shell.
findingstrengthinshell.com, and then
With
for the
shell.
with Shell.
Yeah. See, I
I
should have.
tried to memorize stuff and it doesn't work out. And then for the person interested, obviously you gave the website, but for that person who wants the initial consultation, what is the best way to arrange that?
Going to my website. Um, you can click, you could find my
Okay,
calendar, schedule some time with me. Yeah,
it's as
that's all.
simple. Okay, there you go. Great to know.
All
Any
good.
other? Are there any other resources relating to your expertise that you would like people to be aware of?
I do have a lot of videos and blogs um on my website, so it's a great place to go if you want to see past events, if you want to see some blogs I've written. If you're awake in the middle of the night thinking about your next chapter, go there and you can have some good reading material.
That's such an interesting point where the time to reach the person who may be a candidate for your service might be in the middle of the night when they're not sleeping as well, maybe as they would.
I remember myself being that was like, I'm not sleeping, I'm thinking about, what's happening, and you're Googling.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Shel,
And now it's AIing. I don't know if that's how you call it, but
thank you for being a great resource to this audience. Thank you for educating me about something that, again, I don't plan to go through that process again.
no,
But
no,
what,
no.
but what, how, but being educated in life is what it's all about. Maybe you don't need the information you learn. Maybe you do. Maybe somebody who's watching, and by the way, everyone watching and listening to this, share this with all the people that you know in life, especially the ones where you're like, this could be valuable information for these people to have available to make smart decisions.
Right. You
Super.
never know who you're reaching out there to, because usually people who are contemplating, they're not telling anybody.
Yeah. Boy, I was just going
Yeah.
to say, it's not all advertised
No.
that this is
Mm-mm.
coming. I want to
Yeah.
I want to give a quick plug. Shell and I did not know each other except for a woman named Kaylin McBee.
Mm-hmm.
Kaylin McBee runs Balance Massage and Wellness Center, Newington, Connecticut, if you're in this area. And for a couple of things, I met Kaylin through a chamber. Kaylin is one of these exceptional human beings who runs a great business. I've been a customer. She is a great person, and
Mm-hmm.
she understands, this is something that's a big thing with me. She understands networking. Networking
Mm-hmm.
is about solid relationship building. And just by having in understanding what people are trying to do in life, Kaylin's hardly my best friend, someone I interact with a lot, but just by her knowing what I was doing here, she made this incredible introduction. So thank you, Kaylin, for
Yes,
introducing me
thank you, Kaylin.
into Shell. Everyone else,
Yep.
again, share this episode with people that you know, and I will see you very soon.